including the first grand prize winner on Nickelodeon for the Nicktoons Film Fest. With my Timmy shorts, which your buddy created with me, Travis. And so we've had a lot of fun. In fact, not this one, that is playing in 2 weeks in Sanford. Won 10 awards just last year for Willow's Peculiar Adventures of Willoughby Star. 2 pilots I directed last year, won about 10 apiece just in the last year. So anyway, so I've been doing this for 30 years. I have over 4,000 production credits. So there's really nothing I haven't worked on, or at least a type of production I haven't worked on. Like I said, Woody Woodpecker, just take you through a couple. Chucky, who's a Chucky fan? You remember Child's Play, the demonic freaking doll that kills everyone? The 7th one is coming out, The Curse of Chucky. We're in production right now. I boarded it a couple months ago. In fact, this is the first shot that was from the set. Tooth Fairy a couple years ago for Universal. Both of these, actually, my boards and animatics are on the DVD, on the extras. The Waterboy, horrible script, funny movie. I had no idea. Of course, Sequest, which was the greatest job I've ever had. You're Next, they changed. Who saw You're Next? Okay, it's a horror movie. Here's the thing I loved about it. In the script, every single person dies. Literally. Every cop, every extra, everyone whose name or face is in that movie dies. And the last minute they changed it because they thought it was going to do so well that they'd be able to have sequels. So they had the heroine live. And then it tanked in the box office. Why? Because everyone didn't die. It was such a cool script. And for those of you young enough, I was... all right? Dragon Tales, I was a creative consultant on the first 82 episodes, which is a glorified story artist, but I didn't draw. I oversaw all of the other story artists. And then Guts. I was actually one of the designers on the Aggro Crag. But I was the second designer at Nickelodeon. So I helped develop the look of the entire network when they first moved here. In fact, my wife was their top producer. So she produced Clear Six Dog, Gullah Gullah Island, Wienerville. So, of course, I worked on all those. I worked on almost everything that went through there. And then we got into creating and pitching our own ideas. Who here has their own idea for a movie or TV show? I work with people all over the world on helping them how to do it. I've sold over 35 of my own TV shows. And because of that, people kept asking me how I did it, my wife and I. So we created a company called Sell Your TV Concept Now, and that's what we do. We help people with their packaging, their pitching, what they need to put together, and how to pitch, and where to pitch. And we take them to the conferences like this, and we introduce them to all the biggest network execs. And of course, I do this a lot. And it's fun, and I do a lot of training. I travel all over the world training studios on exactly what I'm going to be showing you guys in a few minutes, Storyboard Pro. It is by far the strongest software. It has doubled my productivity. I make more money because of it. Dan sees me. In fact, I got him onto it. It's incredible. This is actually in Mexico. There's 3 studios there that I trained. And I trained Digital Domain here, too. But I'm not the reason they went under, so it's okay. And so then I started up animatics and storyboards when I was working with Spielberg. I figured, well, that's a good calling card, and that's what launched my company. And we've been going strong for over 20 years now. So anyway, this is here's a couple of my clients that sold shows to this guy, an executive in Canada. And then for the software I'm going to be showing you, this is the former CEO of Toon Boom. I've been on part of the development team on this, so that's one of the reasons I know the software so well. I helped develop it and make it work, and particularly for the live action productions. It was made for animation. They were missing a big segment, so I came in and helped them with how to work in live action productions. And in 2012, we won a Primetime Engineering Emmy for the development of the software. And, in fact, I've got cards out there for lynda.com. I also produced the training course on this, all in 5-minute little segments. So anything you want to know about the software that you don't get out of this, because I can only hit on a few things, I've got 80 videos on there on how to use the software. All right, so one of the biggest questions I always get is, how do I work? What do I use? This is one of my main things, my Cintiq. This is if you're not familiar, this is a Windows 10 computer. That's a tablet. That's all the power of a regular Cintiq tablet to be able to draw on. They've got a newer version now called the Mobile Studio Pro, which is even more powerful, faster, 8,000 levels of sensitivity. Yeah, 4K screen, it's incredible. But I also like working bigger, so I also have a bunch of the bigger Cintiqs. So the 22-inch touch. Believe it or not, I storyboard better on the smaller one because storyboards are not illustrations. Storyboards are quick sketches for production to get across the idea. So when I'm drawing small, I only draw what I need to. I'm faster. What happens when you're on a big piece of paper? You want to freaking fill it, right? That's the only problem with the big ones for a story artist because you got to work fast. Okay. All right, so let's get into talking a little bit about Storyboard Pro. I'm going to open this up and show you guys, and we'll step through a couple things here. This is where I have fun. In fact, and I literally use this every day, and I was using it this morning. In fact, I work long distance with clients. I don't have many clients here in town because there's not much production here anymore. So using Skype, I share my desktop. So I'm working with a director right now. One of the directors I'm working with is in Ireland. And it's like he's sitting right next to me. So I just get on Skype and I share my screen. So as I'm drawing real time, he's seeing it like I'm sitting right next to him. And it's the greatest way in the world to work. So my clients have instant access to me, and I have instant access to their bank account, so I like that. All right, so Storyboard Pro, there's let me get to a blank frame, and I'll just kind of show you just the general areas of what we've got set up here. So there's works a lot like Photoshop. Everyone knows Photoshop, right? I don't need to get into that. All right, so it's the same kind of thing where we can draw on multiple layers, which is great. What's that? Oh shit! I didn't say that, did I? All right. I keep forgetting it takes over. All right. So we've got the drawing area here. So what you're seeing on there is exactly what all my clients, no matter where they are in the world, see. And that's what makes it great. In fact, I've got a lot of artists who are working on different series. I've got one artist who's working on a series in Eastern Europe. I've got another artist, a local guy he's in LA, just started on one up in Canada. No one has to travel, just using Skype. So it works great. All right, so then we've got the different layers, just like Photoshop. But here's one of the things that Storyboard Pro does. And I'm going to give you a lot of little tips, but this is what one of the things that helps so much. I have it set up as a light table, which is just a single button down here. Down here, one of these. Yeah, there it is. This little yellow light bulb. When that's turned on, because notice how black this line is, right? As soon as I go to another layer, they gray out. How many of you in Photoshop, after you draw for 20 minutes, go, crap, I did it all in the wrong layer? Right? You don't do that with this software as long as you're using the light table. That alone saves you a huge amount of time. And you can turn off if you don't want it. One of the other great things is I can see prior and after, just like you're working on animation. So if I add another panel here and I turn on, red is behind, green is in front. So if I'm drawing something there and I go back a frame, I can still see it, so I can come in here and I know exactly what I need to draw, how to move it for the next frame. That quick and easy, just for some real simple things. Now, I also am drawing on a timeline. So I'm creating an animatic real time as I draw. And I have unlimited layers of audio. So I will literally record, and I can record it straight into the software, and we'll play with that here. Audio straight into it. So now I'm boarding to the soundtrack. Here's the problem with doing that. And it's not a problem with the process, but it's an ego problem. All right, how many of you know who Hong Kong Phooey is? Oh, good, most of you. All right, those of you who don't, it's okay. It aired in 1974. But everyone knows it, right? It's this great Hanna-Barbera series. Well, we did a live action version of it. I can't show it to you because we're streaming. But Warner Brothers gave us $1 million to do a 2-minute demo of Hong Kong Phooey. It's kind of like the original Smurfs. All live action backgrounds and characters except for Phooey himself, who's animated, which we did the character animation at Stars Animation up in Canada. Well, in doing this piece, I worked with the director, and I added in half the jokes to the piece, and we had a great time putting it together, and I did the voice track. Now, the original voice for Hong Kong Phooey was Scatman Crothers. Scatman Crothers talks like this. And I thought, oh man, I can do that. So I'm recording the voice and I'm having a great time. And I'm thinking, this is awesome. The producers are going to think it's amazing. They're going to want to use my voice. And then they hire Eddie Murphy. So Eddie does the soundtrack. So they send me Eddie's track to put over my scratch track. At which point I wanted to stop trying to act for the rest of my life because it was so good with what he did. But see, what's great about this is I've got all these audio layers down here, so I can. Oh, it's lightning on there. Let's see if I can hear. Oh, I have scrubbing on. But you can literally animate or do your boards to the audio, so you can set the timing. You know if the sequences work or not, real time as you're working. Anytime I make a change, all I do is hit play. It saves me 10 steps from how I used to work on paper. Because with paper, you would draw on paper, you'd scan it in, you'd break apart the elements in Photoshop, you bring it into After Effects, you move the layers around. Oh, but then you got to go back to Photoshop because you forgot you didn't color you draw in the background for the missing pieces from taking, that you had to cut out. All of that, I just draw in the separate layers, and I can actually move the layers, and I can add in camera moves. So for instance, I've got this little camera zoom right here. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see it a little better. So I can adjust the camera move this easily. I just come in, and let me go to, where's my next keyframe? And all I have to do is I have now changed my camera. And just like that, I've added the camera move. And it's there. If the director says, no, move it over camera left, or I want to be a little wider, I'm not redrawing anything. I don't have to change anything. I just move my camera around. I can make it a curved path if I want. I can ease in and ease out. I have full control. I can even go full 3D in the storyboard software. I can import 3D images, so I can import. I usually use DXF files because they're quick and easy. They work the best. And I use. I'm not a big 3D artist, so I just use Google SketchUp. And for instance, on the Chucky movie, there's one location in the Chucky movie, and I can't tell you what it is because they'll take my firstborn. But it's one main location, and I knew the director wanted to do some really special camera moves of Nika. If you saw the last couple movies, Fiorina Dourif, the gal in the wheelchair, is in this one again. And so she comes out of a room and goes down this long hallway. As these other two people come around, run behind her, and pass camera. Camera's tracking back with him, pans with him down the hallway, then follows her as she turns and walks into a room to see someone that just got, guess what? Murdered. Okay. I wanted to be able to show that rather than just doing the individual drawings and set up the timing and everything. So with a 3D camera move, I was able to do that. So, for instance, I guess I should have put on my glasses. Here we go. So, for instance, this sequence in here, this is just a real quick space station that I built in SketchUp. I import it. So, a real quick pan, or if I want to do a dolly track across, any kind of camera move I want. I have full 3D move. But I can add, in fact, the character is obviously just drawn in 2D. I have full access to have the character where the camera can go around the 2D, or I can have it where the sprite always faces camera, which is obviously really helpful. And the latest version, I'm using version 5.1 now. We have 5.5 coming out in the next month or so. But I can also, if let's say I've got a car and I want someone sitting in the car, I can click on any 3D surface, and that's the surface or parallel to that I'm going to be drawing on, and it attaches to it. So it makes it super easy at any moment. I just click on something and I'm drawing in 2D in a completely 3D space. And then I've got, let's see, or keep it all 2D elements. Of course, this is easy to fake. We all know how to fake this, but this is actually using 3D. So all the different areas are all 3 different layers are separated in Z space. So one of the things that's really cool that they added into the last edition of Storyboard Pro, because if you've ever, if any of you guys have ever done, used After Effects in the 3D, right? So of course you draw it where it's all one flat thing. So what happens when you take back your back plane in Z space? It looks really tiny. So you have to rescale it, and you try to match everything up, right? There's one button in here, click it, and it keeps everything scaled the same when you're moving it, so you don't have that issue anymore. It just saves time. There's so many quick little things. All right, so let's get back into some of the key things just on storyboarding. So who here has done storyboarding? Hot damn, that's great. Okay, so that's going to make some of this mean even more. Photoshop, paper, what do you guys draw on? All the above. Sketchbook, right? Okay. So what's the biggest problem with storyboarding on Photoshop? One of the biggest problems. When the director says, "Can you move that scene here?" It's like, oh shit. Cut and paste and move. And then what, your numbers are all screwed up. It's like, oh god, now I got to go through and renumber everything. It's a huge time waster. Let me show you what happened and how we do that in Storyboard Pro. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see the timeline a little bit better. Get to one that's a single shot. Do I have a single shot? This is a really detailed. This is one of the pilots that we just did. Oh, I'll just show this one. Okay, so here we've got this 3D shot of a plane flying through frame. Okay. Let's say the director wants to move it up here between these 2 panels. Okay, I'm going to take it, and I'll move it, I'm done. Now I hit play. But wait a minute, my numbering might be screwed up. So let's say if I move it in between these, it's going to just go 23A. So it goes between 23 and 24. So now if you look over here on the left, you see it says scene 23, 23A, and then 24. I can also, if I pull up this panel tab, you can see the numbers up here on the right, right? So those numbers are wrong. So if I just go to anywhere prior to where the problem is, I go to Storyboard, and I'm going to just rename scene. Well, that's the current scene. I don't need to rename that, but if I go rename all the scenes afterwards, notice it goes 23, 24, 25 automatically. Hit OK, I'm done. I renumbered everything. That fast. Who here wishes that they didn't have to renumber all their shit every time the director has a change, right? This alone has saved me so much time. It's unbelievable. So as far as, and then for timing, like I told you, we're on I'm drawing on a timeline. Drag it out. Now it's a longer shot. Director doesn't need it that long. I make it a shorter shot. You're not going to get any faster than this in anything that you do. Okay, another thing about Photoshop. Layers. When you open up a Photoshop file, you have one layer. You have background layer. So if you're anything like me, I have a certain setup of layers that I like to draw. I have 1 or 2 rough layers, then I have my background and background tone, then I have my ink or mid layer, and then I have my foregrounds, I have my arrows and notes. So I have all these different layers, which I have to create every single panel in Photoshop. Well, so on here, the default is background in A when you get the software. Well, that doesn't work for me. So I like to have all of these layers, right? My rough, different roughs and background and ink and all these, right? So I'm going to select the bottom layer because default, when I start a new one, I want to draw my rough layer. So here's the benefit of that. So now I'm going to go to Layer, Set Layer Layout as Default. I'm done. So now whenever I go to make a new frame, all the layers pop in automatically in the order that I want. And I guess I didn't have some set. And it will automatically have it set so that the highlighted layer to start drawing on is whichever one was highlighted when I set the default. If I'm going back in and go, no, I want the rest of them to be background, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to reset it. So now when I make a new one, background should, yep, background's highlighted automatically. I'm just saving time right and left when I'm working on this. All right, I'm going to give you guys another tip here. Who likes drawing cars? Well, you're a freak. Okay, I hate drawing cars. It's because it's time consuming. It takes forever to draw a car that looks good. You know what I don't have when I'm storyboarding? A lot of extra time. All right? I'm having to do anywhere from 35 to 80 drawings in a day. I don't have time to be rendering out a car in detail. Well, but it's always so different. So what I do is I have a library, and so right now, well, actually this Aztec, this is one that I did a few months ago. So I found all these different angles of an Aztec. So the director says, all right, I need just off a quarter angle of the car turning. I've got 50 images I pulled off the web. So I just pull that right in as we're roughing it out. I don't have to do anything else to it. I just drop it in, and he'll say, you know what, that's great, but I want it smaller in frame. All right, so I'll just select it, make it smaller, move it around wherever I want. All right, that looks good. So now, when I go in to start doing my boards, you think I'm going to draw it? Nope. I'm going to come in here. I don't have it calibrated right now. I'm going to trace this sucker because it's going to look great and it's going to be fast. How many clients do you think have ever said, I'm not paying you because you traced it? It doesn't matter if it's storyboard or not. All they care about is that they're getting something quick and good. Okay? If I can get it done faster, I'm better. All right? Cars take time. I will cheat every way I can on it. And because it's so much faster. I'm doing so many car videos, and this is one of the reasons, because the client will always see, because when the director and the producer pitch it to the agency or to GM or Toyota or wherever, if the taillights are wrong, they're going to get bitched at. But when I'm tracing it, it's always the right vehicle. Of course, that's the trick. Make sure it's the right year. That happened to me a couple months ago. We're doing the 2018. Oh, when I do the 2017, guess what? There's a couple differences, and they noticed. So, in fact, it's the one I'm working on right now. And the other thing, because I'm working on touch sensitive, just like a piece of paper, I can drag it around, zoom in and out just with my fingers, real time as I'm working. Again, it's just saving me time over and over. Now, one of the things that I can also do is backgrounds also take forever. So here I've got, not that this is a really fancy background, but that would take time to draw over and over. All right, so there's the background. What I can do is, in my library, not only do I have things that I can import, but I can also export to it. So I can just take that layer and I'm going to drag it right into the library, and it's going to save it there for me. Background, yeah, I'll just keep it as the default. I can name it anything I want, and there it is. So anytime I need it, I don't even have to find where it is and paste it in. All I have to do is grab that and drag it, and my background is right in there. And it still has, if I'm drawing in vector, all the separate vector lines are still there. I can manipulate it, change it any way I want, done like that. I can resize it, change it, however I want. Another thing that I can do is, as long as you're using a vector line on a vector layer, some things act differently, but I can draw a vector or bitmap. But even on a vector layer, you can have a bitmap pencil, and I like that. I like the look of a really nice, soft pencil. But I'll often have things, in fact, confetti is probably what happens to me the most. I don't know why, but I end up doing confetti all the time for commercials. Or crowds. Crowds take a long time to draw, especially if you have a lot of them. So one of the things that I'll do, I keep looking like this because I've got a glare on the screen, is let me grab a a brush here, that vector brush. A little bit bigger so you can see it. So, I might just really quickly draw in. Obviously, I'm not going to take the time to do a detailed one. But even if I just do, a quick little crowd like this, and I want to replicate this all over the place, well, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called a draw behind. Now, like Photoshop, I can color underneath on another layer. But that won't work for what I need to do here. So I can also, on the same layer, draw behind, do a draw behind. So what that is, I'll take a gray here, and I'm going to make my brush really big. That's not gray, is it? So as I color, notice that's going to drop right back behind. Hope that's the right kind of brush. So I can create, it's called a dynamic brush. It instantly grabs anything vector I have on that layer. So I can just paste it over and over. But here's the cool thing. Just like any regular brush, I can change the size. So maybe I'll go back here so it goes underneath. Oh, it's not a vector layer. Hold on. So I can just keep changing the size, and I can build anything I want over and over. And that brush is always going to be there on my list until I delete it. Here it is right here. So grasses, leaves, anything you're going to have to replicate over and over, you can do it. I can actually create 3 different things, save on the same layer, save them individually, and every time I tap, it'll automatically go to the next one. So if I'm doing a fall scene and I want 3 different shapes or types of leaves, rather than replicating the exact same one over and over, I can have 3 slightly different ones at different angles, and every time I click the brush, they're going to be at different angles. That fast, I could be pounding through stuff. I haven't even looked at this. Oh, all right. Everyone work in animation here? All right. Who works in live action too? I know Dan does. All right, just a couple of you. Here's one of the things that most people don't know who either work in live action or in animation. Numbering is different. Completely different. If you work in animation, now 3D is different than 2D. If you work in 2D animation, every time, let me close this, every time there's a different angle, here, let me go back into the short. Okay, so we're inside this laundromat hairstyle salon. Now we're just a close-up, and now we go to a separate medium shot here. In 2D animation, those are 3 scenes. Every time there's a cut, it's a new scene. New background, new drawings, new character, it's a new scene. In live action, that's all one scene with 3 different shots. Okay? Big difference if you're going to go between that. You have to understand the technology or the terminology in whatever you're working in. So luckily, we actually worked on that. So I can actually come in here under Preferences, and under General, Terminology Style, I can either do live action or animation. That quickly, and it will automatically number it properly for me. Now when I'm saying it's numbering, there's a number of different things that we take into account here. So, you know, if I've got, I don't remember what I had it set at. Let's see, what's it set at? New sequence, new scene, new panel. All right, I'm going to change this. It's an animation now. I'm going to set this to live action. Okay, so for live action, scene, shot, and panel. So what's a panel? A panel is how many drawings it takes you to show one shot. So, for instance, I was going to act it out, but I can show you here. All right, so this is all one shot. But see how he's moving around? To show the action, it takes a lot of drawings to show the action of this guy, right? So every one of these is a different panel. So this, it took 6 or 7 panels to draw that one shot. So in Storyboard Pro, if I want a new scene in live action, I click on the new scene. And notice there's a break in this blue line on top. That tells me it's a new scene. The one next to it is a new shot. So it's the same scene, but notice there's a break, a dark black line on top and a gray line. It goes back and forth. So I can hit new shots and it's going to alternate. But let's say on this one here, all of the crowd builds in the same shot. So that's going to take multiple panels. So now you can see there's 3 different panels that are all connected for one shot. So again, my numbering stays accurate instantly. And I can grab all three of these, right? And my director says he wants them up there. All right, I moved them, I'm done. You've never worked anything that allows you to storyboard and previs this fast. Now let's say that this panel, see right now they're connected, so it's all in the shot. Let's say I want that as a separate shot rather than in there. All I do is I drag it out until it's not connected to something. Because the green line, if the green line is over there, that connects it to the panel on the right, that connects the panel on the left, and there, the green line's not connected to anything. It's a whole new shot all on its own. It's that quick and easy. I can separate scenes and shots, I can connect scenes and shots on the fly, numbering updates as I go. I can change the type of numbering that I want, so if I want to call the sequence toys, sequence is now called, the scene is now called toys. I can name it in any way that I want. It's, if I add a new scene after this, it's going to call toys 1, toys 2. It will automatically add up the numbers, but if you don't like it, you can change it at any time. Oh, layer moves. All right, layer moves are awesome. So what's going on with this? Nothing's going on. Good. All right, so let's say that I want to shoot the stormtrooper. Just because, why not? So I can, as long as I select the layer that the stormtrooper is on, I can move it around. Now that's not animating it at all. That's just moving it to another place. But if I create a keyframe, so let's go, I don't even want it to start at the very beginning. Let's start in just a little bit. I'm going to go to my tool property, and I'm going to set a keyframe. It would help if I was on the layer. Here we go. I'm going to set the first keyframe. I'm going to move it later. I'm going to set the next keyframe. So now if I want to move him that quickly, I set a move. Now he's just going to jump from one position to the other. So as long as I've got, my timeline in between the two keyframes. Oh, off of him again. I can do my ease in and ease out. For those of you who are familiar with that, if you've worked in 2D or 3D, you understand ease in and ease out. That softens the flow, softens the movement. Rather than going from nothing to everything, it ramps up and it ramps back down. So now, and I can come in here and just hit play at any time. It's a nice soft move. So again, when you're working with a director and you can show them that fast, here's the timing of your shot. Oh, you want me to throw some audio in? All right, let's throw some audio in. So I'm just going to go to audio. Here's the sound of my guy saying something. Let's see what that sounds like. It helps if we have audio. All right, let's play that again so you can hear it.
Are everything I have ever wanted.
Okay, so what's the problem with that shot? Well, the voice goes on much longer than the shot. So I'm just going to grab that panel, I'm just going to drag it out. Boom. Now it's the right length. And as I'm working real time with the director, I'm doing this.
Are everything I have ever wanted.
All right, so now let's play around with shooting. So here's some other cool things that you can do with this software so quickly. So let's say I want to add a camera move. So he's moving, right? But I want to track with him. So I'm going to go to my camera icon down here. I'm going to go to my tool properties here, and I'm going to add in a keyframe on the first and last. Now, camera won't match because he's moving separately. Now, I haven't done a move yet, but I just want to take a look. All right, so when I select my camera, there we go. I lost my keyframes. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go back to my first keyframe. So green is start, Red is stop. All right, so let's say we want to start my keyframe over there. And then I'm going to go to my last keyframe, and I'm going to grab and move around. Oh, I have a 3D camera in here. I didn't realize that. So we'll move it over and maybe... I didn't realize I was on a 3D cam. Wait a minute. Let me take the 3D off of this, because that just complicates things. Reset shot to 2D. All right, there we go. And that quickly I can change something from a 3D to 2D or back and forth. So, where am I? All right. So I decided to push in on him as he's moving. All right, that quickly. But I want that gun. I want this to be first-person shooter, right? So right now the gun is staying stationary. So when the camera is moving, it seems like the gun's not there. I want the gun staying right there, just like I'm playing Doom, right? So I'm going to select that layer. But I've got another layer drop-down tab over on the right that allows me to do something completely different. So as long as I have that layer selected, I can align the layer to the camera. So now, as the camera moves, it stays there. So I use this for my Superman shots or camera tracking shots with the car and frame or whatever. So I don't have to hand track anything. All I do is just align it to the camera that fast. Now, when you go to print out, if you guys are drawing on paper or Photoshop or whatever, you know, this shot right here looks totally different than this shot. You'd have to draw it multiple times or copy and paste and move things around. I just did one drawing, right? So how am I going to see on the export for PDF this panel and this panel? Well, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to go under Storyboard and I'm going to add a snapshot. Basically, it's a picture of what the frame actually looks like at that moment. So see these little blue triangles there? That tells me it's a snapshot. So now when I go to make a PDF, it's going to this one panel. It's going to have two shots of it, showing the camera and all the layers on where they are at that moment in time. So I just saved myself even more time. So now, just a couple drawings, it even makes it look to the client like you did that much more drawing, because it's all different. You can have as many of those as you want as you're working. 2D animators? How many of you work in Harmony? You know, all right, if you don't know about Harmony, you better learn, because all the major studios use it. It's the same company that makes Storyboard Pro, Toon Boom. Harmony is, in fact, there are so many studios right now. There's a call, Toon Boom's actually sending a call out looking for people who know how to animate and work in Harmony. There's Canadian studios in particular, they cannot find enough people. So if you know it, you're going to get a job. All right, right now, and it's the main software in the industry, so you got to learn it. So with Storyboard Pro, as you can tell, I'm setting up the timing, the audio, the framing, everything is in here. So here's what's really awesome. And I've done this on all the projects that we do that are 2D. So for instance, this shot right here. In animation, now this is one file with all the different scenes and shots, right? But in animation, every file is just that one scene, just that one individual shot. So from this software, I can export directly into Harmony. Harmony is going to break my storyboard into every single scene, because it doesn't do shots in animation, remember, it's all scenes. Every single scene, it's going to take that part of the audio, put it in there. It's going to take my storyboard and put it as the background, as the layout. It's going to keep any camera moves or layer moves and put them in there. So the animator just opens up the scene, which is set up, timing to the frame. It's all perfect, and everything is there, and all they do is start animating over top. They know exactly what they need to do. So as a director, what I've been doing for years, is, especially when I'm working with overseas studios, because we usually work with overseas studios, most of my notes are, timing is wrong, please refer to animatic. Timing is wrong, please refer to animatic. I got so goddamn tired of saying timing is wrong, please refer to animatic, right? I've not had to say it at all when everyone's working in Toon Boom software, because it's set up perfectly. The timing, the camera move, the layout, everything is there. They can't screw it up if they want to. It's perfect. So again, it's saving time. So I'm not having as many edits. I'm not having as many retakes, if any. I mean, production is moving smoother and smoother and smoother. Okay, here's another really cool thing. As a supervisor, I love it. As a director, I love it. If it's more than just you, if you're doing your own projects, this won't make any difference. But how many of you actually want to work with other people so they pay you? Yeah, payment's a great thing, right? Pays the rent. So, I send this to a director, and the director is looking at it going, you know what? I don't want to, there's something wrong with the layout on this shot. But I want the director's notes to be obvious and clear for when I get it back. Because there's probably 300 or 400 drawings in this. I don't want to go through and look for a red line sketch. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn on track changes, auto tracking mode. You have the same thing when you available to you in Word, if you've ever used that, where you can any change you make shows up so that you just look for the changes. So notice everything is gray. There's this yellow one over there because I did that as an example. But notice this is all gray. As soon as I touch and start drawing anything, yellow pops up. So when the director sends me this file back and I open it, I'm just going to look for the yellow frames, and I know those are the only ones that have notes on them. So, he might draw, that he wants that bigger. Make that a little bit bigger. Now, and I'm doing this on the notes layer. I always do it on the notes layer. Sometimes he'll do it in red so it shows up easier. But all I have to do when I get it back is look for the yellow. And that tells me which ones. And the nice thing about doing all this on a separate layer is all you do is turn off the layer. It doesn't hurt your drawing at all. Okay? But let's say sometimes it's easier to describe something than it is to draw it out, right? Picture's worth 1,000 words, except unless the words are really good, then they're better than the picture. So one of the things that I can do is if I go to my panel tab, you have what's called a voice annotation. So what that is I'm just going to record, all right, dummy, I hate the way this looks, start over or you're fired. Let's see, how's that sound? Or, all right, dummy, I hate the way this looks, start over or you're fired. All right, that sounds good. I'm going to click OK. Notice that also put a yellow band around that panel in my timeline. So when I go through, I'm going to look at that, goes, let's see, I don't see any red lines. Oh, I see over here 1 of 1. I can have as many voice annotations as I want per thing. So all the artist has to do is just click on it. All right, dummy. And gets to hear the notes. So you can do a combination of both. So again, this makes it so handy to be able to get things done right the first time without destroying any of the work someone's done. So, for instance, one of the things that I've been working with a lot of studios on, I don't know if you're familiar with Rainmaker. It used to be, what's the name? It was a big CG studio up in Vancouver. I don't remember what the name was. Anyway, they're doing all the Barbie movies. They did Ratchet and Clank and Ratchet, So it's great. So I was the senior story artist on one of the latest Barbie movies. And what I instituted was that not only were all the story artists working in Storyboard Pro, because the whole studio uses the software, but they were only the story artists were using it. And I told them, guys, you're missing the power of the software and being able to actually be functional and have things move quicker through production. So I talked to the director. I said, I'm going to teach you how to use Storyboard Pro. You don't need to know everything. You just, as a director, just need to understand how to manipulate a few things and write notes. So I taught the director how to do it. So I would tell him, open up the file. When I told him I was ready, he'd open up, make his notes. He'd say, all right, I'm done. I'd open up the file. Boom. But editors want to also move shots around, add shots here and there. And what most studios are doing is have you export an XML file, which then goes into their edit suite. They make adjustments. They put the XML, send you back the XML. You re-upload it. It comes in. And some of the information is never going to be there. It's a royal pain in the ass. And as artists, most of us probably don't know what the hell an XML file is, right? It's a major problem. Mistakes happen constantly because of this. So I taught the editor how to use this software. It took about 10 minutes for the editor to understand what he needs to know. Here's what an editor needs to know. You want to make something bigger or smaller? Just grab the end of it and drag it. You want to take it to a new position, you drag it and you drop it. You want to put in a new shot or new panel, you just click on the plus new panel, and all you have to do is come in here and write. Let me go to, grab a brush that'll work. You know, close up of Barbie. Now, as the artist, I'm going to come back in. I'm going to go, all right, what's the new frame? Close up of Barbie, great, and I start drawing it. There's no loss of information, no loss of time. He can change and move things around to his heart's content. We've got one master file. It works for everybody. Once it's done, then we can export this out to editorial, and then they can put all the separate sequences together in whatever editing software they want. But as long as you keep everyone working in one software, production is going to run smoother and faster, period. You're not going to have many problems. It saved us 25% pre-production time when I instituted this at Rainmaker. 25%. That's a huge time and money savings. One thing. And it took me 10 minutes to teach them what they needed to know. These things, everything, and I mean, there's just so much here. But just to kind of, it just quickly shows you how powerful and fast this is. There's a ton of other stuff. I don't know what time it is. It's 8:15. Any questions? Because I'll just keep going. But and trust me, I can go on and on. Because I love my voice. Yes?
Any quick perspective tools?
No. Well, I'm saying that. There are, and the new version that's coming out in a couple months, there is kind of like the perspective tools that we have in Sketchbook Pro. Some of that is coming in. So that's going to help a lot. Now, what we do have is, and this is also being adjusted. Let's see if I can find a vector line instead of a, here we go. So, you know, if I've got a box or I've drawn something and I want to put that into perspective, I do have, sorry, I touched something. That's something else I can show you a presentation. What I do have the ability to do here is I can use my perspective tool, and I can grab it and I can adjust anything into perspective. So one of the things in the version that's coming out in a month or two is we can also do that with bitmap images, photos, logos, anything we bring in. Right now it gets cropped. When you try that, it only works on vector lines. That's going to be fixed in about 6. Well, it is fixed. It just hasn't been released yet because I just demoed it and tested it. So, you know, you have the ability to make things, especially if you're doing like brick walls, just draw it straight and then add a vector to it. But that, like I said, the other tools are coming within weeks. Yes?
What platforms is this software?
PC and Mac. And they work between them. I share the files just like Word or anything else in Photoshop files. I share back and forth. Almost everyone I work with is PC. About 10% or less of my artists are Mac.
Any ideas for like iPad version or anything?
They've been looking and talking about iPad. They are working on something, but iPad is not a professional tool. So why? And especially because it takes a lot of time and money to do all that. And they're really working on making this stronger, especially now that we have the Cintiq Companion and the Mobile Studio Pro. I mean, this is an iPad on steroids. You know, now I can do everything. I do 4 layers of real-time video without dropping a frame on this, and I can do it at a coffee shop. Yes, I'll get to you.
How is non-graphic speed and file size?
I actually have never run into a problem. Now, there's in the older versions, the difference between bitmap and vector were huge. Vector allows you to move a lot faster, and there wouldn't be bogging down. The newer processors, I just don't have any issues at all. I mean, I've done 15 and 20 minute full animatics with 6 and 8 layers of audio, and 8 and 10 layers of imagery with bitmap lines. Never had it bog at all. So I'm working virtually real time. It is amazing. Yes.
Thank you. Are you able to keyframe the perspective tool you just used?
Keyframe it.
Like, could you start it in like here and then now pull away in the perspective?
Okay, I've done something very similar to that. Now that we do 3D, we don't have to do this anymore. But I did this one demo, and I can create it really fast. In fact, I did this very trick I'm going to show you. I did this on Tooth Fairy 2. There's a sequence where the director wanted the camera to pan in between interconnecting hallways. of course, when you're looking at a wall this way and you turn, it gets longer or shorter depending on the angle you're looking at it. So this is what I did. This is going to be hard for me to do on this. Hold on. Just because I don't have it on my marker. So I'll do one wall like this. And really just, I don't want to take much time on this, but it is kind of cool. Hope it falls on the right layer. And maybe I'll have something hanging off of it. And then I'll go onto another layer, and if I'm really looking at the corner of this building, sorry this looks so bad, but I don't have this calibrated right now. So what I'll do is, as long as I have a line connecting the two, remember I was talking before about if you draw on the wrong layer, how annoying that is? Guess what I just did? I have to be on a separate layer. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to, come on. What happened to my brush? Oh, I lost my brush. There we go. All right, do this again real fast. So, what I did here is I did a layer animation. So let me stretch this out a little bit. So, first frame, I'm going to set a keyframe. I'll keep that the way it is. And then last frame, I'll add another keyframe. And I'm going to, whoops. I need to put my rotation point on that line. So that's what this little dot is, right? That's my rotation point. So when I stretch it out, it stays there in the same place. Now I'm going to go this other layer, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to add a keyframe at the beginning and the end, but at the end on this one, I'm going to make it shorter. Make sure I keep that there. So now, so it looks like I'm moving around in 3D. So, that quick. So there was a little trick that I created on this to be able to do it. I've actually got a YouTube video up that goes in more detail on that. If you have overlap things, it really looks amazing. But it can be that fast. So I just built a whole sequence of these things with that little animation and a series of drawings of a character. What is going on?
It's not visible.
I just had my character and I would just draw him in multiple positions as he's turning and the camera's moving around. And damn, it didn't look like the camera's just spinning around and around looking down all these hallways just for doing this one quick little thing. All right. But now that there's 3D, I just do a 3D camera move. Which, like I was showing you guys in here. That looks pretty damn cool. And it just doesn't take that long to build real simple things, especially in Google SketchUp. So, yes.
Could you import 3D meshes from Maya into this program?
As long as you can export them as a DXF file, which of course you can.
Okay.
So just create a DXF file from Maya, and it'll import right in. All you do is take your library asset, just drag it in, it converts it automatically to 3D, and you got it. And you can do top view and side view, especially with my multi-monitor setup. Makes it a lot easier where I can have the multiple views over there, adjust them. And it's actually not that, even in here, where do I have one of my other 3D things? Where did I put it? Oh, here. So, I can, even in this, I can just take and spin the 3D model around, however I want. And you can even see the line here, that's my motion line. So, yes, sir.
Same question but for a 3D camera.
You can't import 3D cameras. You create it in here, but it does translate out of here into Toon Boom's Harmony, and it saves it. And I can actually show that. I can show you a sample of because I have the rights to it. Let me show you an example. fact, this is really cool. The key comparison. Okay, so this will show you the actual animatic, and I had this animated in Korea, and you'll notice it's frame perfect. I didn't have them do any edits, and I didn't change my animatic to match. That's my original animatic, and that's the draft I got back from Korea.
Not today, boy. I got my eyes on that day. You gotta be joking, Gramps. I'm going to party with the guys.
So coming up here in a second, you'll see a 3D camera move. All right, coming up right here. That's a 3D model of the car. The set was all 2D art, put in 3D space. So every camera move, everything, I pre-recorded the audio, and I put that in the animatic, so the timing was exactly what I wanted. And I sent it to Korea. I had 2 notes when it came back. I never have 2 notes on something. Dan will tell you, I never have just 2 notes. But because the softwares are so compatible and it was so strong, and because I edited that animatic down to the frame, I knew exactly what I wanted. Because action and comedy is timing. It's all about timing. So the tighter you can make your animatic, the better your animation is going to come when it comes back, especially if everyone's working in the Tumba family of softwares. Yeah, Dan.
The people who can get access to this software, but don't necessarily have access to some teams and things, you know people who work with Tumba on Surface Pros or things that are in...
I've done it on Surface Pro myself. I tested on it. Worked great. Yeah, Surface Pro is actually nice. Like I said, some of them, especially the bigger ones, there's a little clip, especially in Photoshop, where the end of the line has a little thing on it. So, but I didn't run into that on this software. Actually, I didn't run into Photoshop either, but some other softwares I did. So.
I have another question for you.
Well, I don't know, Dan.
But I can wait.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
So you have a cards for the Linda site, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that for so they can watch a couple of free videos, or is that...
There's 7 or 8 free videos from my course on there. 10% of every course is available for free on Lynda. The card there takes you straight to my thing, and also I think you can get 7 days for free of every video on Lynda. If you're in school here in Orange County, you have access to Lynda for free through with your school ID, and the public library, no matter who you are, you get access to every Lynda video for free as well.
I prefer to be a lot, so anyone who has an interest in it should take a look at it and go through all of it.
Yeah, I used Lynda before I became a Lynda author. And I got to tell you, as an author, they're the most organized place I have ever worked. So they're amazing to work with. And plus they fly you out to Cupertino, put you up on the beach. I dig it. Yes, Bristol. I did them for you, so you're welcome. Now, have you seen, how long ago? Because I updated it with another 16 videos about 4 months ago. Okay, you've seen all of them. Yeah, because there's so many new things in this latest version of the software that I had to keep updating it. And this year I'm doing now the advanced, using the 3D, because there's a lot to this. I'm showing you the real quick things here, but there's a lot to it. In fact, all right, here's another thing. Who here likes to write text by hand? You're weird if you like to, because if you're an artist, most artists hate it. I can't read my own freaking writing. That was one thing when I was working on paper I hated, is writing down the script and everything, right? So here, I can import the entire script into what we call the Storyboard tab here, right? So I just always have it there. So then I just copy, and then I go to whatever panel I want, and then I come in here, and I'll, like on dialogue, I'll open this up. Where is it? Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing because I didn't bother. There we go. And I can just paste it, and then it'll show up however I want in the PDF. Now I can export from here. This is the other thing. My clients flip out with all this. So I spent 2 hours on the phone today with a client that's in, I guess he's in LA right now. He's flying up to Phoenix in the morning. But he's in LA right now. So we got on Skype. I shared that. I went through an entire 2-minute video. I thumbnailed and roughed out the entire thing with him super quick using all those tricks I was showing you. And he said, all right, I'm about to run to another meeting. I said, all right, in about 45 seconds, you're going to get the PDF. Now, if any of you have ever built a PDF from Photoshop, how many half hours does it take you to create one, right? Because you have to go and export every single page and you pull them all together. Well, here I just went to export to PDF and I've got some presets. It comes with a lot of presets. I have my own as well. So I went, it's a live action piece, so 3 panels vertical. I named it. I export it. The entire thing pops out with all the text, everything. Immediately after having worked with him, I exported my PDF and I emailed it to him. Not only that, but I can also come in here and I can go and I can export bitmaps. Now, I can export all of it. I can select my shots, so I can come through and I just want to do those and export just those. I can export current things, selected ones, all of them. I can burn in anything, like I can, I'm trying to read all these different things. Shit, I can't even read all of it. But on the bitmaps, I can actually have the dialogue and text imprint over it. On the PDF, I can have the scene numbers and shot numbers and panel numbers. I can have on the movies. I can export a movie directly out of here at any time. And I can also have it set, and this is what editors love. You can export one movie for the entire project or one movie for every scene. It'll automatically break it into segments, so then the editor and director can go and move things around in their edit suite with them not having to edit and break it apart. I saw another hand. I must have answered it as I was talking. Yes?
Do you have any tips or resources for the actual story art of it? Storyboarding?
Learn to draw.
Storyboarding and storytelling. Like,
All right, well, that's a kind of broad question. The craft of storytelling.
yeah, not necessarily software related, right? So lynda.com is a great source for learning the software.
Yes, that's for learning the software.
The storytelling, like what shots to choose when.
There's a books on directing help, books on editing, because directing is editing. You have to understand it. We were talking earlier. You came up with the name of that book? That
I want to say it's like
Directing Shot by Shot. Okay, Directing Shot by Shot is a fantastic book. I learned a lot from that. Now, what he has in that book as far as screen direction, that's one of the biggest problems. We were talking about that earlier too. Screen direction is a huge problem most people don't understand, especially comic book artists who move into doing storyboarding. In comic book art, the direction someone's going depends on how you want the eye to flow on the page. All right, well, that's irrelevant in storyboarding. If you've got characters moving this direction, you can have them look straight at you or away from you this way, but you can't have them going that way or it looks like they forgot something and they're going home. Okay? That's changing the screen direction. That becomes really complicated when you've got multiple people in a scene and someone turns and you're in a close-up. Who the hell are they looking at now? You've got to know how to set that up and you've got to know how not to break the line of action. The book I wrote on storyboarding has the easiest. I created a whole new way of tracking the eye and line of action. It's a whole different way of looking at it. It's the easiest thing in the world. The 180 rule is complicated and only works if you've got 2 people in a scene. As soon as you go to 3, 4, and 5 people, the 180 rule becomes incredibly difficult. I created an eye-line rule. Eye-line sets it up. You master shot, you know instantly how everything needs to work. So my book on storyboarding, it's broken into multiple sections. The art of storyboarding, which is also not only how to draw, but also how to tell story. The business of storyboarding, working with directors, how to charge, work rate. That's the 2nd edition. 3rd edition is twice that big now. But thank you for having the 2nd edition. But now I want you to buy the new one. And then I've got interviews with story artists. I've got exercises. I've got 1,000 samples of examples to look at. There's forms. It's broken into like 6 sections. I stopped rewriting it because I literally don't know anything else. Everything I've known and can think of is in that book. Any other questions? How are we looking at time? 8:30. Oh, cool. Because I can keep going. See if there's anything I didn't. Oh, okay. Quick little thing. And this, even seasoned people don't know this. about the software. So I can, let's see, where is it? Everything acts a little bit differently when you get into the smaller size here. Where's my sketch? Oh, that's right. It's over. It's under here. You can tell I'm getting old because I have to do this. All right, so if I go to Add Sketch, what this does is this allows me, if you've ever been storyboarding or planning something, sometimes you need to show what the location looks like, but you don't want that on your storyboard art. All right, so you might need to draw. All right, here's what the set looks like, and I've got this guy is going to come over here like this, and I want the camera set up like that, whatever it is, right? So you can actually have a sketch thing. So this now, when I export to a PDF, will show up to the right of my storyboard panel. There's so much you can do in this software, it's unreal. Just so quickly. I mean, I like I said, I work with this all the time. I won't hire a story artist unless they have and use the software. It's that important. Yes?
What does the PDF look like when it outputs?
Well, it depends on how you want it to look like. So let's export one. Let's start here on scene 1, and I'll show you. So let's go. Live action normally goes 3 or 4 panels vertical. Animations 3 or 4 panels horizontal. Okay. So I can come in here and I can edit the profile. I don't know if I've even organized this one yet. Nope, I have not. So I can show you a couple things. Well, all right. So let's do selected shots. Open that up. Let's just do those so it exports really quickly. And I can adjust a lot of things on here. All right, so that's going to open up instantly for me, right? So this is the default. What I don't like is, I don't like the way the default's set up. I don't like this is called a frame, anything that's got a border around it. I don't need a frame around my panel. I don't like frames around these things. I think it makes it look ugly. But what you can tell is that vertical puts your artwork on the left, puts the numbering sequences, everything, and then you've got the text, dialogue, whatever shows up to the right. If there's a sketch, it would show up there. So what I do in here, this is a different version of the software, so I haven't updated put in my personal things yet. But what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll edit the profile. First thing is under panels, I'll turn off everything that says frame. So I'm going to turn off frame, panel header. And I talk, my Lynda course, I go through all this too. There's 3 or 4 things. Show panel header, frame panel image. And then captions, I'm going to turn off, I don't want any boxed. All right, so I'll do that kind of stuff. And then, I want to do one other thing. This is a little trick. So, I'm going to percent sign 1. So scene, this is a little trick that I actually had them design for me, because for some reason no one else gives a shit, but it makes a difference to me. All right, so I'm going to overwrite that. What I'm going to show you, it'll make sense when I show it to you. Okay, so this looks a lot cleaner, right? Without all those extra shots and panels and everything. So, I didn't have a scene in here. It just did a shot. So notice the number is way down here, away from shot. So what happens is directors will go duration of 1 because these are closer than these are. So, and I usually turn off duration unless it's an animatic. You don't need it all the time. But it just looks better with without all those extra boxes. So, in here, let me change it to add the shot in there and show you. So under labeling, so now I'm going to go to shot, because I didn't have any scenes in that one. Percent sign 1. So space percent sign 1. It's just a little coding thing. But what it does, it takes that number and puts it up on the same and puts it right next to the shot name. So it just becomes a lot clearer. Notice it says shot 1 like that. So it's just one of the tricks that I had designed into the software. And you only set it once. You never have to do it again unless you update the software. Because that looks better than this.
Cool. Mark?
Yes?
I have one question about this. As you look at that layout, graphically they seem to minimize the drawing and give a lot of space for the words. Is there a way to adjust that so you're...
Yeah, I didn't have it set up on here, Dan. So again, when I go into edit profile, one of the things I'm going to do is number of columns. I'm going to reduce that to 2 rather than 3. Keep horizontal spacing the same, and I'll reduce the number of rows to 2, and that'll make the drawing bigger. In the PDF, still can't make it as big as the default that I set up in Photoshop that you and I use all the time, but at least doing that makes it enough bigger that clients stop complaining about it. And when I deliver to clients, I deliver the PDF, so it's one-click print, but I also send them the individual JPEGs because it takes me, 3 seconds to do? And then, because a lot of agencies in particular, because we do a lot of commercials. I like commercials because they pay a lot of money, all right? Like 10 times more than animated series. So we like those. My kids like those. They get toys. They often have agencies have their own layout that they like to do, throw it in the script, however. So I just give all of it to them. And they're not used to getting that kind of thing that quickly from a story artist. Generally, as little as you can deliver is what you deliver. But it's so fast as software, I give them everything. They're like, oh my God, I've never had this before. And what does that mean? It means they're going to keep coming back. It also means they're not going to argue when I give them the rate higher than anyone else in the area. So, oh yeah. I make no qualms about the fact that I am the most expensive story artist around.
Everyone in here should love money. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, look, I love what I do, but it doesn't mean I'm cheap.
You don't want to starve.
No, I don't want to starve. I don't like that term, starving artist. I've never believed in it. Thriving artist sounds really good to me. What do you guys think? Is that a better term? All right, so stop saying the fucking term starving artist. All right? It doesn't help anybody. Just don't say it. It just makes you feel bad.
So we're going to zoom out if everybody wants to turn around and wave to SIGGRAPH nationally. Hey.
Hi, SIGGRAPH nationally.
So exciting. So thank you for being with us.
Did it work? Has anyone looked online?
Yeah,
Are we actually live?
We hit double digits.
Oh, 10 people!
That's really good for having told really no advertising for it. So you guys have been an experiment, and that has been awesome. And we're going to do way more live streaming this year for our events. So that is huge. We're coming together nationally and globally as a community and learning from each other and hopefully growing. So thank you, Mark, so much for your giant brain.
Yep, it's fun. Thanks.
Thank you guys. We're going to shut the live feed off. I mean, for another 10 minutes, you're welcome to keep asking questions, but then we kind of got to get up and go so that Dennis can go to bed. So, because tomorrow's a work day. So, but thank you so much for coming. Again, check our Facebook page, Orlando ACM SIGGRAPH. And I'm going to put a sheet out for if you would like to leave your email, we'll add you to our MailChimp list. And if you'd like to hear any information about volunteering for the board, we do have some positions open. So if you want to be part of the cool kids, let me know. So not that you aren't already.
Remember those of you who are asking, how do I get involved? How do I get jobs? You get involved. That's how you do it.
Go outside.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again. This was so good.
What is this outside?
All right, now the camera's off. What do you really want to know?